Welcome back, traders. We have our guest today is Harlan Pyan, rhymes with lion, of All About Trends. And Harlan, I have to say, you have been all about this trend up.
Well, I just use support and resistance, and I don't fight the tape. And, you want to use support and resistance and, see if you get a reaction off of those levels. The S&P sure did it. Sure, you eked into a new high a day or two ago. It didn't really stick. But, that's the type of action you want to watch out for. After you've had a market that just went from 1740 to 1850 in a heartbeat. So, a little bit of pullback, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Actually, it'd be a good thing. In a weird sort of way, you want the market to go down to catch its breath. So, my levels, watch the 50-day, which is around 1816, right around 1813. If you slow a Fibonacci on off of the 1740 to 1860 highs, you're looking at a 38% retracement right around the 50 days. So we could, drift down there, pull back, and then make another run. If you're a bull, that's the what to watch for. So.
Yeah, you kind of had that blow off high. I mean, you took out all that paper that you had accumulating at in the mid 1840s, and then you just floated up on Monday, and it was just one of those blow off moves where the shorts were thrown in the towel. People were chasing. Oh, we're breaking out. We're breaking out. I got to get in, and you drifted up, and that was a little too much. And then you had the sell off here. Were you faked out by that? Because yesterday's move was kind of tough. It kind of looked like it was really
No,
going to be a good fake out.
well, I wasn't faked out by it because remember last week we talked about shake and bake, how you get those shake and bake, shake out highs, and that's exactly what we saw with the S&P. Think about it. When you break out like that, those trade bots out there, they know where all the stocks are. So anybody that placed a stop, was short, placed a stop into a new high, they saw them coming. It's like showing your hand when you place those physical stops on the books. So, you probably pop some stops there. And of course, after all the shorts cover, well, there's your buying power. And once that disappears, you start to trail back down. So, it didn't surprise us. I look for that all the time. When you see markets get euphoric and everybody gets really bullish, I tend to pull in my horns. I'm
Right.
not 100% of a contrarian, but, I know enough about psychology of trading to step aside on times like that. There's a good time and a bad time to buy stocks. For me, what works for me is I don't buy strength. I buy weakness at support, and then let the market prove me wrong.
What about I like to do my levels on the S&Ps for daily parameters, and it's just it gets to this point where you don't have any resistance. I mean, you have the old time high at 1856.75. I believe. What do you use for targets on this? Or you just let the market take you out on the downside, or I mean, there's also formulas that predict the ranges. What do you do? I mean, how do you pick targets in this?
Well, I typically don't pick targets. And the reason I don't is because I do not want to become mentally attached to a target because the market really doesn't care what you want and where you think it's going to go. It's going to do what it wants to do, and it's the boss. The last thing I don't want to do is place a target. I have a saying, 50 cents will cost you 2 points. And if, let's say, I place a target and say ABC stock has got a target of $55. Well, what if it gets to 54 and a half and it's extended about the time the market's pulling back? Well, you know what? I got that mental image in my mind that I'm going to get that extra 50 cents. And guess what? I don't get it. And then the stock rolls over and it ends up costing me $2 when if I wouldn't have been mentally attached to that target, I would have had a nice gain, more so than, had I been attached to the target, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kyle.
So
so
that's really why I don't use them.
So Harlan, I've actually watched you and Dave trade for a while on the MarketFi side, and one thing I wanted to, I had some questions on were, how are you guys looking? Which stocks you're picking to trade for the day?
Well, there's times where we do um, some day trades, and times where we don't. For us, it's all about chart pattern recognition. I know what I'm looking for. In uptrending markets, I'm looking for issues that are in clearly defined uptrends that are pulling back off their highs. Some Let me give you a couple of examples. Look at PANW, Palo Alto. Um,
You said
you can
clearly
see,
defined uptrends that are off their highs.
if well, I know we don't have charts available on the show today, but
We're
for all of
trying.
our
We're
listeners,
trying, Harlan. Go ahead, though.
PAN Palo Alto Network, PANW.
Okay. All right. Go
I'm
ahead.
looking at a six months with a 50-day moving average. That's my chart frequency.
Okay.
And if you can take a look at it off the November lows, here's an issue. It just kept trending higher, trending higher, trending higher. And then all of a sudden there came a point in time in the middle of January where the stock pulled back off its highs, hit 65, came down to that 57.5 zone, which is right near the 50-day moving average. And you can kind of see it had like a little 45-degree angle there. What I'll do there is I'll line up my tops, I draw a little pink line, and I call that a pullback off highs line. And then you just sit back, you either buy it on weakness, and as long as it holds the 50-day in a support, you just stay there until something happens, or you
Are you
get stopped out.
are you buying the stock or are you using options?
Just the stock.
Stock.
Yeah,
So that's
I
that's
just
a
been.
solid trade idea for everyone in the chat right now. If you guys pull up PANW, looking at the chart, if you got questions for Harlan, pipe them into the chat for us. We'll get him to answer it. So PANW. Okay, so you're looking at it. Can you give us those levels again there, Harlan, on PANW?
Um, Everything from the mid-January through the beginning of February. It hit a peak at 65, pulled back to like 57 and a half, which also coincided with the S&P and the Nasdaq looking like it was falling off the face of the earth at that moment in time. But you were hitting support levels on those indexes as well at that moment in time. So we bought the stock, and as long as it's in a clearly defined uptrend, we're going to try and stay with it. And then obviously for a swing trader, you just line up those little tops from mid-January through first few days of February, and then just wait for it to break out. The moment it breaks out, you take the trade. You're at the mercy of the market, and then just go along for the ride.
So you don't like to buy into weakness, then, right? You made that statement. I mean, and the thing's set up. So I got some weakness for you here. I got some weakness for you in First Solar. Okay.
Oh
Did
gosh.
well, I didn't mean to scare you, Harlan. Don't
Yeah.
You're not hanging up on me, are you?
No, 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 no. Where's this thing going to open? Right around 49.50 or something?
Yeah, it's trading at a 50.20 right now and made a pre-market low. Someone made a stand here at 49.50, a huge stand. You had some lows at 49.70, another low at the $50 area. You're giving back a lot here. Is this something? I mean, is this stock is not on your watch list, so you're not trading it? Do you like to see what happens for a day or two, or what you're planning in this stock?
I'm not trading it only because I trade what I see, not what I think, not what I hear, not what I fear. I need to see the pattern. That's the discipline, and I stick to it. I don't see any sort operating on a daily frequency, any sort of chart pattern. I see support at 47.50-ish, and that's really all I see. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go step in and buy it at 47.50 if it goes there. It's support, but I like to see stocks stabilize at a support because support can break too.
Right,
So
so you're
for
not
us, there's
stepping
really
in
no trade.
today, but you'd like to see maybe if it made like a double bottom or triple bottom within 20, 30 cents and over the next few days and it gave you a reference point, then
Yeah.
perhaps you would look at it on the long side?
Yes. You really want to see some stabilization. That's key for us. I want to see stabilization. I want to see support hold, Just like resistance, if you're shorting resistance, you want to see resistance stick. So,
Okay.
but yeah, for us, there's just no trade here unless you want to buy support and take a shot. But then you have a stock that's not in a clearly defined uptrend.
No, it did.
So,
It had a nice run. All right, and then everyone's talking about Tesla, and
oh God,
yeah, and one of our traders asked me for support on it, and I just looked at the 15-minute chart here, and I was able to come up with 255, and that's just based on what the market has given me basically since 5:15 a.m. this morning all the way through 7:15 or so. That 255 level held.
right.
How would you come up with support on something like this, and also how do you come up with resistance?
Well, it depends what time frame and frequency you're working in. Right now, you're talking about the 15 minutes. So that's more from a day trade mentality, right in here, short-term mentality. Really, you gapped up yesterday, and what was that? About 218. Let's just call it 218ish. You gapped up, and if you were long, you just enjoyed the ride. In the short term here, gosh, there's support at 220. Are you going to fill the gap? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are you going to fill the gap? Right now, there's more resistance at 260 than there is anything else. I look at it this way. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered.
Pigs get slaughtered. I agreed.
I mean, look at it. I mean, if you're long the stock, guess what? Hey, you've had a nice ride. Enjoy the ride. But you also got to put a little bit of caution here. One can trail and scale. You might want to do a happy medium, scale a little bit out. What are you thinking if you bought this thing, let's say first of the year? Or what if you bought it as it broke out at 190? And here you are pushing, 250, 260. Hey, give yourself a pat on the back. You do have to pay yourself too. No one said you had to get rid of the whole thing, but just remember, the sun is always brightest at its peak.
That's such a solid lesson for everyone out there, and it's definitely easier said than done, Harlan, because we're all bad at this. But taking it off the table and mitigating your risk, I always look at it that way. If I'm up, take some money off the table and let's let this be a free trade for us. I'm a man of the people, Harlan, and I got a couple of questions for you in the chat. DJ's asking about CVI, if we can pull that up, Joel, or at least find out the levels on it. And even beyond that, into all of this, Harlan, a bigger question is, how much does daily volume play into your strategy?
Obviously more so in the older days, but you know what? Price pays. Think about it from that way. We've seen numerous times where a lot of these stocks, they really won't go up on monster volume. Of course, it's preferable, but I'm more interested in what is the overall trend, what is the overall pattern, where's support, where's resistance. Volume hasn't, at least for me over the past few years, really came into play that much. It's preferable, but, there's no such thing as the perfect stock, and there never will be. So while we like to have it at times, if you have the perfect stock and it doesn't have a lot of volume, you're going to end up talking yourself out of some things. So, there's a lot more than just volume that comes into play for us. CVR Energy, resistance 44, support 35. The stock's pretty well all over the board over the last 3-4 months with really no decent gauge. So I'd be watching resistance at 44. It just made a nice run. 38 to 42.13. So, that's not that bad. I do see one trade with it, but that was back at the beginning of December. For those of you looking at a daily chart with a 50-day, you'll see the November lows. It's stair-stepped all the way up to the end of the year. Look at those 2 steps forward. 1 step back is your pullback off high pattern, just like on Palo Alto.
Well, Harlan, we really appreciate you coming on the show this morning. If you wouldn't mind, dude, jump into the chat room. You got a bunch of people asking about some tickers. If you want to chat
Okay.
with them, and then I'll drop your link to All About Trends on MarketFi. Guys, check out Harlan and his counterpart Dave. They are some of the smartest guys out there. I've known you guys for over a year now, and it's been great working with you guys and seeing what you can do. So, Harlan, always
You bet.
appreciate it. Harlan's going to jump into the chat and answer some more. So if you guys got more tickers for him, I'm sure he'll be glad to discuss them in the chat room. While we're also point you over to his service called All About Trends. Harlan, as always, brother, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
You betcha. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See you later.